Moving to Florida and nervous about flood zones? Well, that's what we're talking about today, so let's get to it. Florida, the Sunshine State, beautiful beaches, laid-back people, and a whole lot of water. If you are thinking about buying a home in Florida, you should definitely be educated about the natural environment and weather conditions you are likely to encounter. In a coastal town like St. Augustine, one of the biggest factors to consider when checking out properties is the flood zone. So here are a few things to know before buying a house in a flood zone. Flooding in any home can result from usual wear and tear or improper work done with plumbing. Rare weather events like massive rainstorms can also affect any area, but in Florida, where the vast majority of the state sits at or even below sea level, the potential for flooding can be much higher than other places in the U.S. Natural flooding threats can come from overflowing rivers, hurricanes or heavy rain, elevated sea tides, or any combination of these. And while the likelihood of major events are unpredictable, in 2015 we did experience a perfect storm of continuous rain, overflowing the rivers and the intercoastal, and the arrival of a hurricane, literally at the peak of the full moon. While we are forever at the mercy of Mother Nature, you can minimize your risk and prepare for any potential loss. So the first step is knowing about flood zones. A flood zone is a geographical area that FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, designates based on sea level, proximity to bodies of water, and municipal infrastructure like seawalls and sewer systems. More specifically, FEMA considers the likelihood of the area being inundated by floodwaters based on a percentage calculated from a base historic trend or a 100-year flood. FEMA flood zones range from a series of A to C. Most A zones are considered special flood hazard areas, and that means they are at higher risk. Around St. Augustine, many areas are in Zone A, including all of historic downtown and most of Anastasia Island. These areas will almost certainly flood at least once every 100 years. Zone B areas have a moderate rating, 500-year flood or 0.2% risk, and Zone C are low-risk areas. Then you have Zone X, which can be confusing because it is either no low risk or moderate risk, but likely has better local infrastructure, or the area simply has not been officially rated by FEMA yet. So, you have found your dream home, but it is definitely in a Zone A. What's next? Don't give up on your ideal lifestyle just yet. There are some other important things to consider. First thing is the history of flooding. In working with your real estate agent and home inspection experts, you will be able to determine if the property has experienced any flooding in the past, to what extent, and what was done to remediate any damage. After Hurricane Matthew in 2016, many homes around St. Augustine underwent repairs, and if the home you are considering was affected by past storms, that information should and will be disclosed to you. Another thing to consider is the elevation of the home. Some homes are in a high-risk flood zone area, but the house itself may have a high elevation. So even though the property may have flooded in the past, the home may not have had any water intrusion. Older homes are typically at a lower elevation, so you do have some options. You can add drain fields and sump pumps to alleviate the threat of any water intrusion. You can also raise the home on pilings or stilts to eliminate the potential for future damage. And while most of Florida is flat, there are some parts of natural elevation even within the more susceptible areas. The hammocks, for instance, on Anastasia Island are a geographic island hill that can be up to 20 feet above sea level. If living on the island is your ideal, but a flood zone is your worst nightmare, finding a home in a specific neighborhood might be a great solution for you. Another thing to consider is cost of flood insurance. Like all insurances, flood insurance is a safety net to help you bounce back in the worst case scenario. If you are obtaining a mortgage for your home, and even if you are in a Zone B or X, your lender will require you to purchase flood insurance. In this case, an elevation certificate will be required, but not every seller is going to have an existing or current copy, so you may need to pay for one during your due diligence period. Free Flood lists the details of each flood designation, but more importantly, their flood maps show the flood risk zone. Check to see if the entire property is in a flood zone or if it's a corner of the lot that doesn't include the home. That can determine the price of insurance as well. You'll find all of this information at floodfactor.com. Many people also worry about continuously rising rates for flood insurance, but keep in mind the insurance companies aren't going to want to renovate your home every time a natural disaster occurs. Instead, they will work with you to remediate and prevent water intrusion in the future. For For cash buyers, you are not required to purchase flood insurance, but depending on the location, elevation, and age of your home, it is definitely something you want to consider. So there are the basics of flood zones and what to keep in mind while searching for your home. One more thing to know is St. Augustine is a small town with a big heart. After the impacts of Hurricane Matthew and Irma, the community rallied together to help one another and came roaring back to life better than ever. The county and city governments are actively working on preventative measures and plan to keep our beautiful old city safe and dry. And hey, what's a little water for 365 days of paradise? I hope you found this information helpful. If you have any questions at all, you'll find my contact information in the description below. You'll also find a link to my relocation guide. If you'd like to learn more about what it's like to live in this beautiful part of Florida, then check out this next video. I really do appreciate you tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one.